everybody, welcome to the Mariah Effect podcast. I'm Mariah, and this is another solo week. You may have noticed that last week there wasn't an episode. I have been up and down and all over the place with whether or not I am feeling good. I feel like a lot of what has been going on recently has been like a lot of nothing when I take advantage of the nothingness, by also doing nothing, if that makes sense. Like, I don't have anything planned to do, or there's no deadlines or whatever. And I'm feeling okay. So I take up that time of nothingness by doing silly things like I'll do laundry, which is important, or cleaning up my room and stuff, which is also important. But like, I either do way too much in this time of nothing and I end up like wearing myself out, so then I feel horrible the next day, and then feel horrible for a couple of days. Or I do absolutely nothing with the nothingness time, so that when it is time for something to be done, like, I don't know, a podcast episode, something pops up and gets in the way. So last week, I won't go into too many details because I didn't talk to this person about talking about it, but somebody that I know got into a motorcycle accident and busted up their face pretty bad. They were in the hospital, they had surgery, they are okay, but the whole thing happened on a Wednesday night, and then I spent a significant portion of the next day trying to figure out what was going on, going to go see them, running around with my brother and trying to help him out with stuff he needed to do. So it was just like a lot of chaotic stuff that happened during the time that I planned to film an episode, to record an episode. And then it just got to the last minute, and I was talking to my mom, Darsana, and she was like, why don't you do like a blog, or do a blog entry or whatever? And I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. So I start typing the blog entry, and I get super, super tired, and I go to sleep, and then I woke up the next morning, and I'm the type of person that like is a perfectionist. So if something isn't perfect, if something doesn't fit in exactly what I had as a picture in my mind, then I don't want it. Which is kind of crazy, kind of, I don't want to say toxic because that sounds really bad, but I think it's kind of unhealthy at times. The nature of that, like, I spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to make something perfect, and if I can't get it perfect, I delete it. So the times that I've done this podcast, for instance, when I do it by myself especially, if I don't like it, I delete it and I redo it again. So the Father's Day episode, the Father's Day episode that I did, which was like the first one that I did completely by myself, I recorded it 3 times. And by recorded it 3 times, I mean I spent an hour recording and realized that I was just kind of babbling at a certain point and was like, I'm going to stop talking right now, actually delete this because it's all over the place, I already know it, and I'm going to start again. And I think that was more than an hour in. I think I was like an hour and 20 minutes, and I realized that I had been talking for an hour and 20 minutes and was like, we're going to do that again. So then I recorded another one, which was a little under an hour, I think. And started listening to it like, okay, I can, chop this up and like put put it together in a way that like makes sense with what I was saying. And there were a couple things that I didn't like about that one either. I don't know why. I don't remember what was wrong with it exactly. There's something wrong with it though. So I deleted that, got rid of it. Um, I'm not sure what it is in my personality that made me this way. I can't think of where it might have started or anything like that. I haven't really thought that much about it or talked to anybody about it on any significant interpersonal level. But I feel like something like this um, is a big reason why I've had so many issues with schoolwork and things like that. Because when I was growing up, I had a hard time with um, turning in homework. Homework was a huge problem for me. Um, when I was in, actually, I think it started in middle school. When I was in sixth grade, I remember I had this class, and I'm sure I did it to other classes, but I specifically remember for my language arts class, or otherwise known as English class, um, I had a hard time with turning in the assignments because the assignments were very menial tasks to me, in my opinion, which I think a lot of homework is, I don't want to say stupid, but is ridiculous, is um, at times too much for students to be doing. But in that class, I remember we had these homework assignments that, for all intents and purposes, were just to make sure that you were following along with the book that we were supposed to be reading. But a lot of times it was like filling out a sheet of paper about, I don't know, like what you read, the part that you had read of the book that night, and your thoughts on it, or something like that. I don't remember specifically, but it was something to that effect. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to write down what I thought about the book in this little, like, required assignment. Like, I should write down what I think about the book when I have thoughts about the book, not when I've read 15 pages, which, of course, is like how they assign things. It's not like, oh, read until you feel like you get to a stopping point. It's like, read these assigned 15 pages or this assigned chapter or whatever. And I just thought it was silly, so I didn't do it. And I remember it got to a point where I was not failing, I don't think, but I was getting, like, I was in the C territory, and then it got to the D territory. And it was this crazy thing because why, as a person who loves, like straight up loves reading books, cannot get enough of literature, why am I like failing this class? I'm reading the books. I'm doing the classwork when we have to do classwork. I'm enjoying talking and having discussions. Like, why am I failing? And it all had to do with homework. Like, I didn't enjoy these menial tasks of having to write down stuff. And I think, thinking on it, the reason why is because I didn't want to put in the effort that it takes to make it perfect, because I didn't want to turn in things that weren't perfect, right? So if I read these 15 pages and I didn't have any substantial, thoughts about what was happening in those 15 pages, I felt like I was failing or I was wrong or something, because why don't I have some brilliant idea about these pages like somebody else, or like what they expect me to think, right? So I'm not sure that I can blame everything on that entirely. I will say that there's a lot of things that I just didn't want to do because I was a teenager and I said, nah, this is stupid. But another point that I make about talking about homework is when you're in high school, I don't think like they make it clear when you're in high school and you're in these classes that are AP classes or, the higher advanced sort of classes, that they assign homework that is just absolutely insane levels of homework. And I recognize that it is in preparation of college, which is very similar, of like these enormously taxing hours and hours of homework for one class. But when you're in high school, like the way my high school was, is it was, you had, I would say, 8 classes, 10 classes maybe. I'm trying to remember because it's a while ago, but it was like you had 4 periods in the day. Yep. Okay. So you had 8 classes then because you had 4 periods in the day. And what they would do is they would do 4 periods one day and then the other 4 periods the next day and back and forth. And so then it would switch. So every week it was like 3 A days and 2 B days. And then the next week it would be 3 B days and 2 A days. So it would be on this rotation. Um, which in some ways I think was meant to make things easier so that you had the time to do your homework at night. But the thing about it is it really just gave them the excuse to assign even more hours of homework, right? So I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, especially when it was me and Sam talking. But when I was a freshman, I was taking Algebra 2, which is 2 years ahead of where I was at. Which I don't say to brag in any way, just to say that, like, that's where things were at. So it was an advanced class, right? I was also in AP Human Geography, which is, I think, one of the only AP classes you can really take as a freshman. And what else? AP Human Geography. I was in the advanced ninth grade English class. And science. What was science? I think I had regular science. I think I was just in biology. I wasn't that great at science. Um, anyway, so I had biology, which is normal class, algebra 2, AP human geography, and advanced English. I also was taking a language. I was taking Spanish, which it was like not beginner Spanish either. It was like after 3 years of taking Spanish. So, all pretty much advanced classes. And a lot, I would say each of those classes, probably aside from my biology class, which was a normal or a normal level class, would assign about 1 to 2 hours of homework. Which, if you think about that, right? So then that's 4 classes that I had that were advanced classes, and 1 to 2 hours of homework a night. So then that's, we'll just say, let's just say an hour, just to keep it safe, right? An hour. So that's 4 hours of homework that needed to be done for these classes. And let's say I had 2 1 day and 2 another day, which is not the case at all. But let's just say I had 2 1 day, 2 another day. So then that's 2 hours of homework for that day and 2 hours for the next day, right? Well, for those classes and interchanging And I had other classes that required homework too. I had 4 other classes that needed homework. And let's say that each of those classes was like 30 minutes of homework, like half the time. So then each night that meant that I had 3 hours of homework. As a teenager, I had extracurricular activities. You're encouraged to do extracurricular stuff. I did like theater, tech, and things like that. So that's 1 to 2 hours that I would spend after school. So school would end a little bit before 3 o'clock. 2 hours of extracurriculars after school. That puts us at 5 o'clock. It took me about half an hour to get home from school, half an hour to an hour, depending. So that puts us at 6 o'clock, which is like right around dinner time. So then there's dinner. Then I had chores to do at home. I had to do the dishes. I had to clean up after myself. I had to clean the kitchen. I had to clean the living room, all sorts of stuff. So then that puts us at like 8 o'clock at night. So then I still had 3 hours of homework to do at 8 o'clock at night. Tell me why. Like how ridiculous is that? 3 hours of homework. So then going to bed at 11. If I went to bed right after, like I do the homework and I go to bed right after, no breaks, nothing. Go to bed and then wake up in the morning at 5:30 so I can get to school by and be in school and in class by 7. Like that's crazy. That's insane. And that's coming from the perspective of what I had to go through in as like a freshman in like um in 4 accelerated classes. That's not even taking into account when things get really serious. When I was a junior, which some of my classes I didn't end up taking as a junior that were like advanced classes because I had failed, or not failed, but I had done poorly. So then they ended up putting me into some more regular classes. But as a junior, I think I had, yeah, no, as a junior, I had regular history. I was in AP. Was I in AP? I don't remember. As a junior, that's like the year that's the most important for college, right? Because those are the last, that's kind of the last grades that you have is the end of your junior year to be submitted into colleges. If you're starting to submit to colleges in the fall of your senior year, to hear back by the spring, right? So, really important. You have your ACTs, which everybody makes this huge deal about the ACTs. Like you do these practice tests for the ACTs like constantly, or the SATs, whatever. It's just so much pressure. So like putting all that pressure into like homework and things that are in some cases also the same, like menial sort of tasks of like redoing equations that we had in class that day. Just this is the same concept that you're redoing over and over to prove that you learned the concept. When a lot of the times, and again, this is in no way bragging, a lot of the times I would get the concepts after 1 or 2 tries, 1 or 2 equations. Like, sure, there were some times when it wouldn't come just naturally to me and I needed a little practice, but it's like we would do that practice in class and then the assignment for homework was just to do the same thing again, you know. I understood when we had to do when we had homework that was like let's go over everything we've learned this chapter or this, you know, period of I don't know, this quarter, whatever. And like, let's review everything before we have a major test. So then we review everything, do like a worksheet sort of thing in class, and then we're given a study packet to take home. I understand the need for doing that because it's a refresh of things that we learned over courses, like over weeks of time. And things can, you can forget things pretty easily. So being forced to redo those things again makes sense. But when it's literally you learned it that day, you take it home to do that night, like, I just think that's silly. When it came to like AP Human Geography, a lot of the times it was literally just read the book and take notes, do notes for your reading, and then turn those in. That's all it was. All I had to do was take notes. But at the same time, it's like, how do you take notes? And maybe that's my fault because we never really learned ways to take notes for different people. There was only one way that you learned how to take notes, and that's the way they say that you're supposed to do it. When in reality, like, you should be doing notes that works for you. So you have to figure out what works for you. And I just never really took the time to do that. Why am I talking about all this? I think that a lot of the time when I think about my life, when I think, why am I in this place? Why am I in this moment right now? I look back and I think, what could I have done differently to change where I am right now? And I think about a lot of different things with that. Like, it's not just thinking about school stuff, but thinking back on a lot of the things that I did, things that I regret, or things that I still stand by. One of the things that I wish I had done differently was school. Because when I was way younger, like probably in elementary school ish, I just remember being told consistently by teachers and by adults in my life, in my family, that I was very smart, that I had, the stuff that I needed to be able to go really far, to get out of, the same life that had come, same as the lives that had come before me. And I remember being told that all the time. And I knew that I was smart. I knew that I was intelligent. And I had, like, I would think of, people would say, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I remember thinking, like, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do this. And I don't know, like every week, every time somebody asked me, it would be a different thing that popped into my head. At one point, I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought lawyers make really good money and they fight for what's right, and they are known for being smart, are known for being intelligent, and I am known for being smart, like, to the people around me. And then at one point I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I watched Grey's Anatomy with my mother and doctors seem cool. But also because I genuinely wanted to help people, and who helps people more than doctors, right? Another point in time, not for very long, but for a little bit, I thought I wanted to be a police officer because police officers help people. That's the thing that you think when you're a kid. Police officers help people. So just like this idea, this notion over and over of like, what do you want to do? And the number one thing that I knew for sure was that I was going to go to college, that I was going to graduate from college, because my mom before me, she had gone to college, and not that I had messed it up for her, because she made that decision herself, but I came along and she didn't finish college. And I think about it a lot of like why I wanted to do things in a certain way or why I wanted a certain life. And a lot of it comes down to like what people influenced me or what people wanted me to do who were around me at the time. So growing up, a lot of the times I thought my mom wants me to do what she didn't. My mom wants me to be better or to do better than she did. And I think the pressure of that for someone like me who wanted to do things perfect, who wanted to make sure that things were just right or I didn't want them at all. It was like when I started messing up, it was like, this is already messed up. Even if I try to put it back together, it is messed up. And there were so many other things going on in my life and at home that made things a lot harder on me. So I don't want to take all of the blame, but I do want to take some of it because in the end I'm the one who made the decision to go hang out with friends instead of doing my homework, who made the decision to lie to my mom about where I was a lot of the time, and the decision to focus on things that made me feel good instead of things that would help my future. So I think that when I look at where my life is now, meaning that where I thought I would be right now, 10 years ago, is not where I am. And what does that say about me? What does that say about what I thought about myself? And that kind of also has messed with my mind a lot. I think that one of the people I'm mean to, which I'm not mean to a lot of people, but one of the people that I'm really mean to is myself. And I do a lot of self-reflection and trying to think of how I could have done something better or how I could have been better. And that's kind of the whole idea for this podcast, was talking about stories from my past and why I have changed my mind now, or why I don't, hate the person who did something to me, or why, whatever. It's a lot of reflection on the past. And I think that when I have all of this time to myself to be thinking about stuff like that, it really compounds on me and affects my mental health seriously. Because all I have is that time to think and think and think and think and think and think. And it's like every day I make decisions that impact myself, my future, and other people. And we all make mistakes, right? But I constantly stress and think about those mistakes over and over and over again. Recently somebody from my past reached out to me and we were talking, and I could see how the things and the choices that I made have impacted this person to this day. And not that I have all the blame for how things happened, but I do have some. And it really hurt me to listen to this person's troubles that they've gone through, where they're at in their life now. And I think that one of the biggest things with this conversation was that I haven't come as far as I've needed to. in the space that I created between me and this other person. I haven't come as far as I've wanted to. And I've moved on, but there's a lot of reasons why things didn't work out between me and this other person. And I need to be more. I need to really figure out my stuff, honestly. One of the biggest things that I can remember, even when I was little, when people would say, "What do you want to be?" I knew I didn't always know the profession. Like I would come up with a new profession every time, but I knew that what would go along with it was and be a mom. Always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to be a mother. I always knew that I would be a good mom because I have those qualities that I think make a good mom. I'm compassionate. I'm loving. I'm caring. I am always thinking ahead of like, what do we need for this thing? Like as an example, if we were to go on a camping trip, right? There's so many things that you need to be able to go camping to make it like just in case you would need something. And I can, like, days before think of every single thing that needs to be included and make sure that it's all put together and packed. Like, I have that gene inside of me and that ability, so long as I have control of the situation, control of like what's going on and the plans, I will make sure we have everything we need, right? When we would go to the beach when I lived in California and we were going to the beach for the day, like, what do we need? We need chairs, we need a blanket, we need to bring a cooler so that we have drinks and water and stuff for the day. We need to make sure that we have sunscreen. We need to make sure that we have towels. We need to make sure that we pack the bag full so that we have, other stuff to do. I need to make sure I bring a book for when I don't want to be swimming in the ocean. I need to make sure to bring Ziploc bags to put stuff that cannot get wet in the Ziploc bags. Like, I have that skill, and I think that, like, if you don't have that skill, you can be a good mom. But I think having that skill makes you, like, just more prepared to be a mom. Like, you have this extra set of skills that will help you to be a better mom. And then when I was thinking about a lot of the things that I wanted to be, maybe not the lawyer, but a lot of the things that I considered being, which was, being a chef, being a doctor, being, what else did I want to be? I think at one point I thought about wanting to be a, what is it called? Being a, what else? I think at one point I did consider wanting to be like a teacher. Anyway, all of those professions, it all boiled down to I need those skills to be a good mom. Like being a doctor, knowing what I needed to do in case something happened with my kid, in case they hurt themselves, in case they got sick, that I would know what needed to be done because I would know everything that there was to know about that thing. Going to culinary school, it really just boiled down to me wanting to be a good cook so that I could cook for a family someday. And I have aspirations outside of that, of course, but I think that I have just always wanted to be a parent. I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to have a family of my own. And I think that that comes from a lot of things growing up, obviously, but it's something I've always wanted. And looking at my life where it is right now, I'm pretty much single and I don't live on my own. I have just gone through this whole huge health situation that puts me in a place where I'm not in a position to be going out and dating people. So it's like every day I feel like I'm more and more off course of the path that I had wanted, that I had created for myself. Because I'm not going to lie to you, 10 years ago, well, a little bit more than 10 years ago, when I was 14 or so, I really thought in my head that by the time I was 24, that I would be married and have kids and be having kids or something to that effect. Like I'd be married and be having kids. And that's just not what happened. That's not even close to what happened. And if I didn't have those things, I thought, of course, that I would have gone to college and had a degree and be working the job that I wanted to be doing, the thing that I was educated in. I'm not doing that either. So it's just this big, like, cosmic shift in what I thought would have happened. And that makes sense because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen to your life 10 years from now. I have no idea where I'm going to be 10 years from this moment. But making plans is what I do best. It's my favorite thing to do is make plans and stick to them. So the fact that I didn't stick to that plan, that I didn't stay on the course that I thought my life was going to take is hard. It's really hard for me. So this time that I've been taking to think and reflect and try and make plans for the future has really been a journey for me. It's been a hard road. And a lot of what I want for my future right now is kind of up in the air stuff. It's stuff that I don't know if I can latch down, if I can make real. It feels very not unattainable, but out of reach at the moment. Like I can feel my fingertips touching it, but I'm not holding it. Does that make sense? Like, am I making sense, you guys? I don't know. Um, but a lot of the things that I want just seems like it's out of my grasp. And I know that it can happen. I know that I can do it, but it's like when or how, that I don't know. And that scares me. That really scares me. So, aside from that, there's been so many things that I have wanted to do that I can't do. There's been a lot of moments where I am just so sick of being in my own company. And it's kind of like it's giving me the same feeling of COVID, like because we couldn't go anywhere, right? And during the majority of COVID, for the majority of COVID, I was not working and not doing anything. Like, I was on unemployment because I got let go from my job. Um, so I was on unemployment and I was still getting money, so that was okay. But I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. I was terrified to do anything because I have lupus. And so I was so scared to get COVID. Like, it terrified me. So I was just home all the time. And at the time, I was in a committed relationship with someone and we were living together. And so the only person that I saw was him every day. But he went to work, he left and was at work. And so it was just me by myself for a lot of the time. So this is actually um, even a step further than that, where like I am completely alone. Like, I don't even sleep next to anybody. I don't have time laying in bed watching a TV show with someone. So it's like really given the same vibes, and in some ways worse, in some ways better. But it's been difficult. I feel like I need to, when I'm better, I need to interact with more people. I need to be getting out there and having conversations and spending time with other people. Like, I need to be social. When I think about the happiest, quote unquote, time of my life, like the time when I felt the most happy, would have to be when I was in high school, funny enough, because that was also the worst time of my life, simultaneously. Um, the best time I can think of is the times when I had my little, like, friend group, and we would go out and we would go and do things. We'd go to the movies. We would hang out at a park for hours. We would be working on stuff together. We would be just hanging out, doing whatever, walking through Target for hours. Oh my gosh, like that's that's so crazy thinking back on it. But I was so happy to do that. And maybe it's not even that it was the best thing ever, because the alternative was being at home, and that was some of the worst times ever. But like, when I think about that time, the things that made me happy, it was being around a bunch of people that cared about me and I cared about them. And just doing stuff that made us smile, that made us happy. So, thinking on that, it makes me realize that it's been a really long time since I had like a group of friends, like a, a clique of friends, you know? Um, I don't know if that means that I need to, like, how do you get that as an adult? Like, what do you do for that as an adult? Like, when I've worked at places, sometimes that's happened and I've had that, but I've had to work there for a while to be able to obtain that. And then I leave that job and that completely goes away. It and that vanishes. So, like, how do you keep that for a long time? I thought maybe when I started college that that would be when I would start making these groups of friends, you know. And maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But I do know that I need to figure it out, because this being alone by myself all the time isn't gonna cut it. Is not it. That's not it. So I'm on a path to figure that out. If anybody has any suggestions for me, things that you've done, things that have worked for you, that would be really helpful. So I would appreciate that information. Um, but to wrap things up, just as a reminder, there is a Patreon that I publish things to sparingly because there's not a lot of people on our Patreon right now. But with more people would pressure me into actually posting more content and things like that. There is also our website, which is the-mariah-effect.com, and that has all the links to our social media pages and our information. It also has blog posts that I have published instead of the one that I didn't publish, and also information about upcoming things going on. So, it would mean a lot to me if you followed us on those. And next week, I'm pretty sure will be an episode with me and Jason. Another episode to come will be one with me and Mallory. So you guys will get to meet her. But that is all I have for you, all I have to talk about this week. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for listening.